Okay, 3, 2, 1. You know I'm the hottest. You ain't never gotta hit me if I'm.
Oh, you are way more than my last name? Are you
Such a good movie. Singing in the rain. Wait, that's about rape. Never mind.
Yeah, Jesus. That was another movie. I was like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to like this, and everyone told me it was great. I'm like, I'm kind of meh.
Dude, Kubrick is a fucking. That's all about like essentially dealing with crime. That's just a movie about crime, and he just did it the weirdest fucking way possible. Let's have guys with cod pieces and canes beating people up and raping people in their own home while singing in the rain.
I guess maybe I'm just desensitized, but I didn't get any. I guess supposed to be like shock value out of that. I was kind of just bored with the whole thing. The guy was a weasel, and I know he's supposed to be a weasel, but it was, I don't care. I hope they torture the shit out of him.
Well, it's bad people abusing other bad people who are not in power, and then one of those bad people getting the leg up on the other bad people through public opinion. And it's kind of just like the moral of the story is like about justice, I guess, and essentially what it means to be a politician.
Sounds like nobody gets justice.
Yeah, exactly. That's what kind of the point of the movie. It's like there's no such thing as justice. There's just about who's gonna fuck over who and who wins.
Yeah,
and he wins in the end because he makes the government fucking bow to him because everybody finds out like about what happened to him. Because they brainwash him. So anytime he sees violence, he starts getting like nauseous, and it's like triggered with a song. And this guy just locks him in a room, starts playing the song over and over again, and eventually jumps out of the window of the room and like breaks almost every bone in his body. And while he's in the hospital, like the press gets wind of it, and literally while the press is like flooding in, he like turns I don't remember if it's like the prime minister or what, turns them basically to like his bitch. Like where he's just he like the guy's like cut up the steak. He's going,
yeah. I hated that fucking scene.
I laughed so hard in that scene. Like this guy's fucking got it. He's got him.
Well, then by the end he breaks the programming because he's like that weird scene in his head that's not really happening, but he's having a dream. He's like, all right, well he's back to his old ways, I guess.
Yeah. In the movie, it kind of like seemed to me that the point was it was like a low class tyrant, I guess you'd say. Like he was a tyrant of such a small world, is learning to be a high class tyrant through the trials and tribulation of the system. Kind of sounds like a certain German guy.
Yeah, I just say he was a worm, and I didn't like it.
Something about Werner von Braun.
I know you're talking.
I'm sorry, Werner Herzog. Werner von Braun's the rocket guy.
Just like you're talking about the rocket guy.
All right,
he came over here because he worked for a guy.
Yeah. Late Night with the Devil is a Shudder original movie.
Well, was it? Because it had like 17 different like promos in the beginning. Remember that?
Yeah. Hold on. When
I was watching it, I thought it was a fucking joke because it just kept all these different companies started like
producing. I think
like,
some of them are fake.
That's what I was wondering. Is this part of the movie? Like, why is there so many of these?
Let's see. Production company distributed by IFC and Shudder. Yeah.
So was that just part of the movie that they had a bunch of those?
I think some of them were probably fake, and then some of them were the actual production companies, and some of them were the distributors.
Yeah, they did different things. I was so thrown off by that. I was like, what the hell is going on? Because it went on for a while.
So, basic rundown for the movie for those who haven't seen it. A late night host in the 70s. His ratings are dipping. He needs a bump. His wife just died from cancer the year before, so he's like depressed and struggling. He's always falling behind Carson. Invites a psychic, a skeptic, and a scientist who has a demon-possessed girl in her possession.
It's happened to all three of them be there.
Well, I mean, it's like
I know he booked them, but
yeah, it's the setup for it's their Halloween show. It's the setup for how those old talk shows used to work, where you bring on one guest, you talk with him for a bit, and then you bring on the second guest, talk with him, and then your first guest would kind of tag in. And then, you'd all be around for the last guest. And so say the show does not go according to plan.
Yeah. And it's supposed to be like almost like a fountain footage kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and the little girl, thank you, Warden Gordon, it was saved from a Satan-worshipping like cabal in like California, just a little suburb in California.
And he's supposed to have some weird ties to what was that some other
the Bohemian
is it
Grove.
the Grove? Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was the part that like really threw me off in the beginning because it starts off like a documentary where it's like, you know, the 60s were a time of blah 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 blah, and 70s unrest and violence and crazy shit happening all over the place, and the occult was on their rise. And then there came along this guy who was an announcer from Chicago that became a late night host, and he got inducted to the Bohemian Grove. You're like, wait, what? What was that last part?
It was so like quick and random, and they expand on it, but it's so like
In the beginning, they like brush over it. Like, oh yes, it's a rich summer camp for billionaires where they go and dress up in weird cloaks and do rituals in the woods, allegedly, and it just keeps going on about other things. Like, you want to go back to
And
that?
then he met his beautiful wife. I was like, are you not going to expand upon that? Maybe ask a couple more questions.
Yeah, so it all comes back into play later, but in the beginning, you're just like, did he just say Bohemian Grove?
But yeah, they kind of just they did that really quickly. I feel like if you're gonna mention Bohemian Grove, they go a little bit more in depth with it.
It would have been hilarious though if that never came up again.
Yeah. They just gave you that little piece of that nugget of information, like if you watch it again, it's one of those things you got to watch like 3 times. I guess they did kind of hint to it, didn't they?
Yeah, that would have been actually I think that would have made probably the movie better if they didn't ham fist it, but it was very obvious. Like once they get towards the end of the movie, like what they're doing with it, you know what they're trying to say. It would have been nice if they were a little more vague about it.
Yeah, you kind of you can't be that vague with it with audience. You gotta because you put that out there like, all right, that's kind of a cool nugget, but I need more. Like you gotta. I think they did just enough to. When they got to the girl part, that's when they kind of got a little heavy-handed with it.
I really only have like one problem. Like we'll start with I want to start with presentation, right?
Well, did we go for the whole rundown? Of
Well, I mean that's essentially it. He has these occult people on, things go awry.
Okay.
That's pretty much the plot, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a found footage style movie almost, where it's like this tape was never revealed after the broadcast. Blah blah blah. It's been found, and we're presenting it here for the first time in 35 years, or whatever the fuck. I really like how they presented it, like it was a documentary, where they do the when they get cut to commercial, they do like the black and white behind the scenes footage. I thought it was really well put together. Like as far as like the concept of the movie went, like pretty solid. I kind of did hate when they like wouldn't just make that guy Anton LaVey, or at least like mention and like, oh, he's one of Anton LaVey's capos that started his own little cabal or whatever. Like that would. I feel like there was parts where they went to ground it in a reality, but then they would take huge steps back.
Yes. Yeah. I got a couple gripes like that too.
Yeah.
So,
but that's nitpicks. That's nitpicks. It's like it has really nothing to do with the quality of the movie.
Yeah. I liked what they tried to do, but I think they kind of. I don't say they. I think what they did everything on purpose. It's well done. I like the actor that played the main guy. He did a really good job.
Mr. Polka Dot.
Yeah. I didn't like the black and white shit because it's supposed to be. I know it's supposed to be found footage, and all the other ones with the cameras during the show. And they did like show you that the other stuff was they had guys like filming shit behind the scenes. But they're literally like giving away the plot and like talking about crime sometime. And you're gonna tell me this guy with this giant fucking camera on his shoulder, you don't see him in front of you? When my problem is this could have been easily fucking taken care of, where they could have just had other actors like this is a reenactment.
Oh, that could have been cool. That could have been cool. Yeah.
This is what we found footage like this. Yeah, this is what from witness testimony and footage we had behind the scenes. This is what that looked like. Because some of it was like cartoonish. Like he literally turned into somebody else behind the scenes. And it was like, you're gonna tell me you don't see that guy holding a giant fucking 70s camera on his back following you around?
Well, it wouldn't have been a camera that big. It would have been probably an 8mm camera.
Well, they kind of show the guy. He had like one of those shoulder mount camera things.
Well, I'm saying like as far as that's not back then, that wouldn't have been considered a big camera. That would have been considered a tiny camera. Like,
I know, but for
like
him, how close he would have had to get.
But I guess my point to that is really that wouldn't have been that uncommon. Like if that's something that happens all the time, like I can see people just getting comfortable with it and just ignoring them.
Well, I don't want to give spoilers for it, but he's admitting to almost like crimes and like shit that got out would ruin his career if they got out, and he's just saying it in front of this large camera where. again, if they had reenactments, it's like, they just had like, this is what, from witness testimony and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just got a different actor. They did a whole reenactment. The black and white thing would have been perfect because they're just, they're going back to that thing. That's my gripe. I was like, this could have been solved in like 2 seconds if you just had like, this is what we put together from testimony.
I think my biggest gripe with the whole movie was probably, it's gonna sound weird, the electricity.
What, when the demon part?
Well, anytime like something with electricity would happen, you would literally get like those old like 70s style like lightning bolts going along the lines or whatever, and that just bugged me for some reason. I'm like, everything else is like trying to be super realistic here, and it's like, why wouldn't you just like, you add the sound and like make the camera follow the line, and like, I don't know, you could even like make it like shake a little. People get that power is a large amount of power is moving, Yeah, I don't think we needed I think when the girl started like, at the end when the girl started like, she started getting like electricity all over. I'm just like, that it kind of breaks it for me a little bit. Like, it is kind of a nitpick because it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of it. But it's one of those things where I would have made the choice to like, let's not do that. Like, if she's gonna get electrified, let's show that by, I don't know, make her hair stand up like it's static electricity.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what another one of my gripes is like, this would have been better if they left it open to where this might have just been mass hypnosis, because they kind of hinted that when the guy does his stupid thing.
Mm-hmm.
But and again, they do that mass hypnosis thing and they show what he sees. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why would we see that in a replay?
Yeah, that's why the camera and everything changed, because that's not a part of the replay.
Really? Okay. I thought that's
you notice that when he turns around and they're like all there again, going, "Hey, come on out, Jack." And he's like,
no, they
turns
show
around
everybody in the audience going like, oh man.
Yeah, but the
but
camera
then they show him what the thing is though.
If you look, the camera changes. Like literally the aspect ratio of the movie changes, and it like changes to like where it's smaller, and it's almost like cinematic. Where they like have the cinematic color grading and like the long lenses and shit.
I get that, but how would they do that if this is found footage? Like,
that's where like this is a movie where it starts off found footage, but it depends on you getting so wrapped up in what's happening in the movie that you can kind of like let go of that and you just kind of follow along to like, oh my god, what's happening? Because like the end of the movie,
you go into the guy's head.
Well, I'm saying after the whole thing, it cuts to like the stage and it's not one of the TV cameras.
Oh, because it pans out or whatever?
Yeah, because it's showing the whole studio, and it's like, that's not one of the studio cameras. That's it. It's not even breaking the fourth wall, it's more breaking the third wall. Where it's breaking its own boundaries of like the presentation.
Yeah, it's breaking its own walls down to what they already constructed.
Which,
what you thought
I don't mind that. I didn't mind it at all. It was more of like, some of the imagery in that little thing was a little heavy-handed, hey, here's a chalice.
It was it was a little over the top.
Yeah.
Even when he's trying to do that scene with the stupid swirl bullshit.
That
that is very 70s. That's very 70s. It's just like it's like,
yeah.
And then you have the scene where you actually see them. I get that you're supposed to like jump out and like notice that what your camera difference things. I guess I didn't. It's
little subtle changes to kind of like give your brain hints that we're not in Kansas anymore. Like,
I don't know. I just don't like that. I don't.
No, that's kind of a taste thing. It can be done pretty wrong, and it can be done really well. I think this was probably about the middle, as far as like that, pulling that off.
Yeah, I know they did everything. Everything is done. If it's stuff is done on purpose, I try not to nitpick too much. But it's just like, then what the fuck is your movie? Like, why are you just presenting it this way and then going in all these other directions?
Yeah.
But again, they didn't change directors midway and like, oh no, I want to do this now. It's like that was their purpose. Like you said, they had they tried to give you subtle hints and let you go along with the ride.
Yeah, and I would say on accomplishing their goals, I'd give them like a solid 7. Like they did a pretty good job. They could have done better, but it wasn't terrible. Like never once did I go, ugh. There's a couple things where like the lighting, I was like, but that's about as much as I ever got. And I know it sounds like we're kind of complaining about the movie right now, but really like that's the most I have to complain about it. Like that's like little small stuff that I probably would have done differently. That's the most I got. It was a pretty decent movie. Like I liked it. I liked enough where I annoyed my girlfriend with it for like a half hour. Where I was like, let me tell you about this movie I just watched. It's crazy. There's a Bohemian Grove. There's a fucking demon that comes on TV and shit.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked what they tried to do. there's that stuff in the thing that I don't like. I get that it's a style, and that, you know, but again, I know they did it on purpose. I just particularly don't like it, that stuff. But I would recommend it. It's done well. It's acted well. You know, there's, like you said, some gripes, but for the most part, it's a solid movie.
Yeah, it's really good performances. I really like the guy who was the skeptic. Like the scene where they're like, "Oh, you didn't hear about Christu, which was the psychic." So like the psychic comes on, right? He starts doing his whole little bullshit. It's like, I hear a P. Is there a Peter? Is there a Peter? And then, like, it turns out the guy he's talking to is a plant. You learn that in like a little cut later.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, that's not right. And he like sees these two, like this mother and daughter sitting in the front row. He's like, an Ed. There's an Ed, an Edward. And they're like, Edmund. And he's like, Edmund, is that your brother? He recently killed himself. And they're like, yeah. It's actually quite a touching little scene. Like, you don't know if he's like for real in the context of the movie. He's like a full psychic, like, you know, channeling their dead, these people's dead loved one.
Well,
or
or
if he's
in a scene where he fucking vomits.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
black-
that's the beauty of that scene is it starts off with you're going, oh, this guy's a fucking charlatan. This guy's like, this is bullshit. And then that next one, it's like so touching where you're like, well, I don't know. maybe he's just like really good at like this cold reading thing. And then his eyes roll back in his head and he starts talking about Minnie and a married man with a wedding ring, or an unmarried man wearing a wedding ring and all that shit. And you're like, I thought this guy was fake. Like, it's a really well done scene. Like that, the progression of this guy's full of shit to, well, maybe he's just really good at this. And then what the fuck? And then he starts spewing black goo everywhere. And then you find out later he dies on the way to the ambulance after the skeptic like basically gave him a nut kicking. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, pretty much destroys him, and then he dies on his way. And like, oh, let's not tell anybody.
Yeah, and they're like, you didn't hear about Christu? He's like, oh yes, I'm sure he really had fun projectile vomiting everywhere. He's like, no, the motherfucker puked himself to death, like literally on the way to the hospital. Like, well, shit.
Yeah, yeah. It was.
He's like, am I about to lose $500,000? That's all he was concerned about.
Yeah, because he had that check he was going to give out.
Which, okay, spoilers, all right, for anybody. I don't know if this is going to work. Nope, that's not the right one. That's on the other one.
You gonna play the trailer dump again?
No. Spoilers for anybody who was going to watch this and hasn't yet. Come back in like 2 minutes, like 3 minutes. The end, the demon obviously, comes out full power and starts killing motherfuckers. This guy, skeptic, who for the entire movie was saying that he would give $500,000 check to whoever could prove, paranormal shit. The Amazing Randy challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, the little girl's head like splits and a TV-ized fire demon starts spewing out of her head.
What the hell that was?
I was fine with that because it was still in the TV cameras. I'm like, it's like a distortion in the signal, right? We're not actually seeing this. It's a distortion. Like,
yeah, we can't actually see what they're seeing. Would have been a little bit better.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Like, it probably, like, they showed that the poster of his head on fire. I'm sure it was probably like that with like the demon face, or I'm presuming because you don't actually see it. But on the cameras, it's like that, but with like the weird, like VHSing effect on it and shit, which is kind of cool looking. Yeah. It kind of looks like
it was like some kind of electric demon for. It was kind of weird. It was
almost
like a fucking.
You know what the face looked like? Angry Groot. I'm angry, Groot. My head's on fire. I'm angry, Groot. I am Groot.
It was like for a thing like they were trying to be like everything's this is almost like a mind game.
Yeah.
To just full on head split fucking electric monster was kind of weird.
It was a cool look. I just kind of wish they had done it practical. Like done something practical.
You actually see his face break in half. Yeah,
that would have been cool. And then like even done like a practical like demon face like come out of the face or something. That'd be fucking cool. Like do it like it's a 70s thing. Like I want practical effects. If you're gonna do stuff in that era, please, for the love of God, give us practical effects. You can polish them up with a little CG. I don't care, but I want to see the practical, the time lapsing or the reverse footage shit. I want to see that. It was so good.
Or do what you said, was where the camera just can't pick up what the hell's happening. You're just going by everybody's reaction.
Yeah, it could have been like a Frailty where his like face is distorted out. Where just like, it looks like a tracking line across his face the entire time.
But you just see people just absolutely freaking out because of the look of it. Yeah. And I don't know, again, a nitpick, but I thought that would have been cooler. Yeah,
some of the effects were a little dollar store-esque, like the ghost wife. I was like, yeah, don't show that for very long, please. Could have done a little better. Like it just looked like it looked like fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi standing behind him, going, "Luke, that bitch is a demon."
And I don't know if they had that tech. Did they have that technology in the 70s? Like, go back, fresh.
Yeah,
like
play
live
back.
on air.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know about that.
yeah, because you would have multiple tape decks. You would have a specific tape deck just for that.
In the 70s.
Yeah, like the
I'll take your word for
VHS.
it. You're more of an expert on this.
I remember the VHSs were much bigger though. Like
Okay.
this TV studio one, like the VHS, I think were like that big as opposed to like that.
You can do it in real time, live on air.
Yeah, because it's just essentially a VHS or a VCR over there that you're recording your live taping to, but then you're recording to like a much higher quality, right?
Okay.
So you have multiple signals, and then you have a signal that's going directly to the TV station. So you could take that playback. That's why that VCR was there even to begin with, was so you could do playbacks. It was very rare that they would have to do it. It was mainly for like sports things, but most TV studios probably had them.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
No, I don't know if they would be able to tap it back into the main thing, but it was like they're showing them on a monitor. It wasn't too out of the realm of possibility. Like, and it's a New York studio. Like, if it was like a Omaha studio, they'd be like, I don't know. Like, it's New York. They hit the best.
Yeah.
Every time.
Okay.
Yeah, the deaths were pretty cool. I would say
when he spins that guy's head around.
yeah, he starts doing the power of Christ.
Yeah.
Just falls over. It's the fat guy just dies.
And they die so quickly. It's not like a long drawn out thing that murders like 3 of the main characters like immediately.
Yeah, it's like within a minute.
Yeah.
Like the skeptic, the one that's the one I want to talk about was like when they're all doing their different things. Like she pulls out her little owl talisman and starts doing her little thing, and then like the demon like pulls her off the ground with it and slits her throat open with it.
Yeah.
And then the skeptic's like starts chanting something, and he pulls out the check and holds the check up, and then he like all of them burns or he melts essentially. And I'm like, okay, I can believe that he might know some like incantations that he would like jump to, like, these are the ones I've studied. Let's try to use this. That's what I've been told worked. I don't know if any of those incantations involved a check though.
Yeah, that was
weird.
what's a,
It was all happening so
pay
fast
off the
though.
demon?
It's so happening so fast. We're just like,
it's like, wait,
all right.
oh man, they killed her, and they just spun that guy's head around. Did he pull out a check?
you know what? This is what I'll take it as. He's a man of his word.
Integrity
You
to the
win!
end.
You win! Here it is! Oh no, I'm the
I believe,
Fire.
sure. Okay, yeah.
No one gets the $500,000. I guess unless the
Stevie did Demon?
research institute does. Yeah, it was it's a good movie, but it was a strange movie. Like there was some things that's a mixed bag, but overall I really enjoyed it. And I wish more people made movies like that again. Like try some shit. Like not everything in that worked, but at least it felt like people were trying new things.
No, exactly. That's why it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but I enjoyed what they tried to do. I had fun along the way. It's just like I just didn't. I would have did it differently. Is what kept popping up in my head. I was like, this would have been cool if they just did it this way. But again, he did something different, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. But again, I think it's a good movie, and it's worth watching.